Hello. Before I start my ignoramus project that I mentioned in the last video, there's a couple of preliminaries I'd like to take you through. The first one is to do with the book, the Bible that I'm going to be working from, Mr. Erbsen's Clawhammer Banjo for the complete ignoramus. I'm going to work through it, and from now on I'll call that the IG project. But I'll need to point out that although it says Clawhammer Banjo here, I'm not a great fan of the actual clawhammer style. I play something slightly different, and I'll show you. The effect is much the same, but the style is slightly different. And I'll just show you that. I'll get this out of the way. Pick up the banjo. A couple of things I forgot to mention when I was describing banjos and accessories. All of my banjos, I think all, maybe except one, have got a scoop, a lump taken out of the fingerboard close to the head. And I do a lot of playing, most of my playing over that scoop rather than down there with the clawhammer. People tend to do most of their work. It's a bit fuller tone. This is nice and percussive. This is just a little bit softer. So that's the scoop. The second thing I forgot to mention was this. When I'm in the band, sometimes they say, you're too loud. So what do? I get my lovely little towel and stuff it in the back here as best I can, and thereby reduce my volume by 30 to 40%. So that's a very handy accessory in certain situations. Anyway, where was I? Clawhammer. The clawhammer style is a very percussive style. It involves, if I get back you might be able to see better. It involves picking a note, strumming a chord or a series of notes, and then following through the thumb. So it's pick, brush, pick, pluck. And you can see there's a constant down, 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 down motion. And I find that I'm not very good at it. I have to be too accurate with my down finger, and I prefer to lay back a little as I play. So instead of doing, I would tend to do. So now that's nowadays referred to as Seeger style or up picking. The effect is the same. The basic rhythm is 1, 2, and 1, 2, and exactly the same as the strict clawhammer. So I still be able to work quite happily from this book using my style, or not my style, Pete Seeger's style, or whoever he pinched it off, and get all the benefits anyway. So I may, in fact, try some clawhammer. It won't do me any harm, but my fallback style is the up picking. And while we're on that, the musical information in this book is presented in what we call Banjo tab. And here's an example, Cluck Old Hen. I'll be getting to that in a couple of months' time probably. As the lines represent the strings, and the numbers represent the fret on a particular string. So yeah, where does it start? It starts here with the, can you see it? 0, 2. So the first two notes are open first string, and then the second fret on the first string, as in first string, open first string, second fret, and so on. And all you've got to do to get that version of the tune is to just follow the instructions. And I have to admit, I've got a love-hate relationship with tab. I love it because it's a very quick and easy way of picking up a tune if your ear is not good enough to do it solely by ear. I love it. I use it all the time. On the other hand, it gives you one version of the tune, one particular version of the tune, and in this case of this book, they're all good versions of the tunes. But the essence of this old-time style is that although you've got the basic backbone of the tune, the melody, you have several different alternatives for jazzing it up, putting in extra notes. And the ideal is that you can just sit there and put these things in as you feel. Now, I'm nowhere near good enough to do that, but that's where I'm aiming. And this doesn't give you possibilities, it gives you one particular way of doing it. And so you have to get, after you get this in your head, then you can explore how you can dress the tune up a bit. Even if it's already dressed up in one way for you by the arranger, then you can still explore other ways of doing it. And that's where I'm heading, that's where I want to go. Okay, so that's that. Now, the final thing, no, I did forget one thing. When I was talking about fingernails, I said you don't need fingernails to play the banjo. Well, it's not quite true, I've discovered, because when I chopped all my fingernails off, I still had mainly no trouble playing. But when I had to do a downstroke, I found that the string was giving a sort of muffled double sound as it came off the short nail and then the pad of the finger. So yeah, I take it back. If you're playing claw hammer, you pretty well better have a decent nail on whichever finger it is. Could be this one, could be this one, your choice. That finger better have a decent nail to get a nice, clean, sharp sound. Anyway, the third and final preliminary is that Mr. Erbsen, tabs, when you're reading tab, reading where to put your fingers, of course it depends on what notes are set up here, what note comes out. If this is set to a D, then that comes as an E. If this is set to a C, this comes to a D, whatever. So before you read the tab, you have to see what tuning it is. And Mr. Erbsen lists, I give examples in 4 different tunings. So I just want to talk a little bit about tunings on the banjo. Here we go. And we're going to use this little thing here. Way back when, in the 1850s, not 1950s, when teachers in America were starting to produce books about the banjo, there was a standard tuning that they tended to use, and it was this one here. This is string 1, string 2, string 3, string 4, and the short string, string 5. We had, let's start here. It's called standard C tuning now, standard C tuning. So there's the C, then we've got C, D, E, F, G, G, A, B, B, C, D, and then a high G on the short string. So that's standard C tuning. And all of these notes, as you can see, well, they're all notes that are available in C major, in G major, that's about it. So this, you can focus on playing stuff in C or playing stuff in G, because open strings play a big part in banjo playing. And so you'd like as many of your notes here to be useful as possible. So you minimize the amount of left-hand finger work because you can draw on open strings. So this was the first tuning I was taught, actually. So, but if you look at it, let's look at it from the point of view of wanting to play a song in G. G is the tonic, home note. B is, well, it's a third. But I want to do some revision with you on my approach to theory of writing down notes. In an earlier video, I call it string theory for the fretless, but I've changed my mind about that. I'm going to call it Charlie's fret code now, or F code for short. So, when you're applying the F code, first of all, you have to decide on what the main note is that you're interested in, the tonic of the key. And so let's say we want to play, this is C tuning, so we want to play a tune in C. So in the code for this is C is 0, that's your starting point in the system. G is 7 semitones above C. B is 11 semitones above C, and D is 2 semitones above C. So the F code for this tuning, and the G is another 12 plus 7. So the F code for this tuning is 70711 2. And then banjo players who like to keep things as simple as possible, and they're playing in C, they say we don't use B very much. It'd be much more handy to have a C there. So why don't we do that? And they tune this one up to a C. So instead of standard C tuning, we have two Cs. We have double C. We have C, G, C, D. And double C tuning. And so the first half a dozen or more songs in the Bible, the Ig book, are in double C tuning. On the other hand, let's say, since all the notes are there in G as well, you wanted to play a song that's in G major. In that case, G is your home note, and that gets 0. B is 4 semitones above, that's 4. D is a 7. C is a 5, and a G is a tonic at 0 again. Now, the same thing applies. If you play in G, it'd be much handier to have another G, another D, a low D at your disposal, because let's face it, the most important notes you're going to be playing are the tonic, 0, and the fifth, which I call 7 because there's 7 notes above there. And so people who want to play in G decided they'd have a much nicer time of it, an easier time of it, if they tuned this up 2 semitones to D. And that became what is now called a standard G tuning. And it's also called open G because an open tuning is one in which all the strings are tuned to notes of a major chord based on that particular tonic. So it's either 0, 4 or 7 everywhere. Don't have to be in that order. There are other open tunings besides G, but this is the one that's standard in bluegrass. It's pretty standard in old time too, but the old time people, when they want to play in C, they do this other trick where they bring this up to C and use double C. So, and that's only skimming the surface of the possibilities for different tunings to make certain things simpler in certain keys. So, I'll be talking more about that as we go through the project. Anything else worth saying? Oh, I'll just show you those tunings. I've got this banjo in standard C. So this bottom note here is a C. And there's a C chord, G chord, an F chord. So our bluegrass friends will bring this up to a D. We have open G tuning, which if you don't put any fingers down, you've got a G major chord. So that's easy to fall back on. However, our old-time friends who want to play in C go the other way. We'll put this back where it was. Thank you very much. If I can find it. But we'll bring this one up to the same note, the octave, the other C. And so now you have slightly different chords because you've changed the second string, a C major. You can now play with one finger. An F, you can now play with two fingers. So a G is it's an easy G as well with two fingers. So part of the reason for double C is you get a slightly easier fingering than if you're back in standard C there. Well, I hope that's a little clearer than mud. And next time I hope to get on to talking about a real tune out of the Ig book and maybe try and confuse you a bit more with my F codes idea. Okay, until then, bye.